You're now watching two old farts making noises.
Joe, do you want to know why some businesses succeed and some businesses fail? Why some businesses grow and some businesses don't? That's what this show is all about. Business, business, business.
Welcome to the Lost Dollar Business Club, everyone.
All right.
Hey.
Thank you. We've got our outraged citizen back.
That's right.
and Mr. Anagram. Welcome back,
Thank
David.
you.
It's been a while.
Thank you. Yeah,
So
today, I think I
yeah.
felt like staying away because it show always does better when I'm not on it. So
the statistics prove that out.
Yeah, they do actually. It's when David's not on the show for some reason. Like we did the cannabis show, we did all the shows that get these mega watches, and David's not on those. And we do a show with David, and he gets like the normal amount.
Well,
and
let's
it's just
spin it around with
today, David, you're gonna help us propel this to levels that John doesn't even know of.
That pink background doesn't do us any good, David. You know,
it does for the people in Cuba.
Sorry, John. Are you being outraged again?
Yeah.
Are you an outraged citizen? Okay.
And he upped his T-shirt game and everything.
Oh my God!
Yeah, look at that. He's got a Hawaiian T-shirt on.
I'm really wondering about you, David.
Listen, stop.
You don't have to want. Don't wonder. Don't wonder. Just dream. Just dream.
All right, Michael. What are we talking about today?
Sorry, Michael.
Paranoid economics, whatever that means, and how politics and economics merge into paranoid economics, and the merger of the PGA and with LIV, and really I guess we're talking about the Arab influence in sports, which is a very common theme in the sports world.
Yeah. And you're gonna have.
Get the freedom and the flexibility of remote work in the lucrative tech industry. Bend your life around the world. Bandicoot is the premier course and community for thriving in a remote tech career. Join the revolution today. Bandicoot.com, official partner of the Lost Dollar Business Club.
Now we're back. Oh, wait. Now we're really back.
Now we're really back. Now we're here. So we've got a lot of good things that Kurt is going to open our minds. Can you explain to us the general idea?
Wait a minute. I want to go back to your English. Explain us. Where did you just fall off a boat?
You know who says that? Shauna says that every time I talk to her. She's always things to her. But today, Kurt's going to explain it to us.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I use the word paranoid just kind of jokingly. Because every time we come around, especially since 2016, let's say, the whole political scene is not kind of follows the script, but doesn't really follow the script of a typical influence over the economy. But particularly when Mr. Trump became President Trump, it went off the charts. No one could predict what was going to happen next. There was so much sentiment playing a role in what was going on globally that for about 13 months, it was impossible to predict anything. Now we're seeing similar traits happening now that Trump's talking about re-entering the race. So I was thinking, hey, let's look at their tax positions. Let's look at where they're going to be on infrastructure, technology, regulations, safety nets for the public, and let's take a look at how that's going to play out. Where sentiment is going to drive both the conversation and the economy based upon what they're saying. And you see it now, even with, of course, Morgan Stanley and Bloomberg, who could never agree on anything. How optimistic Morgan Stanley is looking at 2024 versus where all the other outlets are. So that's where I kind of came up with the idea of, how fear, mistrust, and conspiracy theories play out in politics and paranoid economics.
All right. Now, what kind of to really dive into it, what kind of conspiracy theories are influencing the market today, you think?
Well, even as something as AI and also what we're going to talk about later with the Arab nations' influence over sports, like the golf and even the UFC. Let's not leave that out, where they played out in that role. So yeah, you get both left and right can't agree on that either. But also in other areas, of course, you get the dialogue is moving towards legal issues, obviously, because that's front row and center. They're talking about many different angles on which way the economy is moving. Everybody's like, oh yeah, it's all Biden's fault. The other ones, and Trump's standing up saying, we had the greatest economy in the history of mankind. And you're getting both sides kind of speaking as far to the extreme right or left as they possibly can on both topics. So I was just interested in where everybody else sees it, if we're completely divided, or if the world has still some sensibility left and we're somewhere close to the middle on it.
I mean, don't you think that do you think it's a media activity to actually create these or amplify these extremist views, as opposed to saying that there's actually more people in the middle?
I think the economists are actually partly to blame, because I think they're out there listening to the media and they're kind of tailoring their opinions, let's say, maybe not the numbers, but they're tailoring the opinion on the numbers to what the sentiment is. And that falls back into the paranoia of it, because the more you start talking about sentiment, the more you start building on mistrust. And the more you build on mistrust, the more you can't trust the numbers. And you're seeing that when I read, minus 16% for 2023 and a significant recovery in 2024. You're going, and people are kind of like scratching their heads and going like, what? Like, how does that play out?
But I think part of the reason that we don't trust numbers, whether it's from an investment bank or a government, is because they lie. And you go back to 20, you can go back to, you can go full, I know it's a shocker. I know. That's a crazy reveal on a show. If you go back to 2008 and in like 2009, 2010, they go, unemployment is down and jobs are up. That was such crap, because if you looked at, like, when 2008 happened, unemployment was almost like 40%. And what they didn't do, and one of the economic guys, and I forgot who it was, probably Martin Wolf from the Financial Times, big shout out. What he said, which was very true, I think George Soros as well said it, is that what they're not taking into account, they just take into account that this 26-week or 52 weeks that you get a check. Then they don't account for the people that dropped off. They don't count that people have to work. Some people are working 3 jobs. They didn't account for students, whether they be 16 to 18 or college students for summer jobs. He said, so when you add all that up, you're like at 30 or 40% unemployment. And theoretically, if you look at unemployment today, even though the numbers come out and go, it's up 2%, it's down to, we're probably at about 20, 25%, because there's the underemployed. Some people working 3 and 4 jobs. There's people that can't get a job, and they're not on unemployment anymore because the benefits are out. Yeah. Right. And people are just like, they don't care. So I think our unemployment is much higher. So when you look at numbers and you say, I think Morgan Stanley is the one who said we're going to have a 24% or whatever recovery in 2004, they're just swagging it, right? They're just taking a dart and throwing it. We're in uncharted times right now. And I don't think anybody really realizes that with AI coming in and taking not every job, but a few jobs, people don't want to work. Companies are cutting back. I don't think, they know what to look. I don't know how you're going to have a 16% recovery when all the investment banks are getting rid of about 200,000 people. And that's just one segment, not counting all the other segments. So I think people just don't trust them. I think they're just a joke.
Yep. And people are looking for AI to almost act like a fortune teller.
Correct.
And it's not.
We have a fortune teller. He's called Richie Sunak. And he said in January that the UK inflation would be half this year.
Mr. WEF.
Yeah. It'll be half this year. Well, I mean, so with that and the European magic money tree, which just seems to sort of grow money when we need it, and then it dies when we really need it. Who knows? What sort of wacky world we're living in?
Well, all right. So Stephen's talking about this being unprecedented times. What makes you say that this is for the people not maybe paying attention. What makes it so unprecedented?
Wait a minute, you're not paying. You're not paying attention.
I-
Would you just fell out? You just came from another planet, like the Las Vegas UFO? Is that why you're not?
Yeah, that might be
I
it.
mean,
I
like,
can
during
I can
the
see
what
John
makes it
getting
so
more and more
unprecedented?
outraged.
I know I'm
Yeah.
trying to get John pumped up here. During the
Oh,
Depression was one thing, but what this is just now. There's no rhyme or reason. If you would call the guy at Morgan Stanley and say to him, "Hey,
Yeah.
can you tell me why you think there's going to be a 16% increase?" And he'll give you a bunch of BS and statistics and this theory and that theory, but they don't know. They're just winging it on just say the last 50 years. But the last 50 years didn't have, and I know we can talk about manufacturing and robotics.
16% of what? I lost that.
What are they 15%? 15% growth, Kurt? Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Yeah.
Right now,
Of
they're saying we're in a
of their own pay
recession.
packets.
Yeah, they're saying a recession of 16% now in 2023 and significant recovery in 2024. But
Yeah,
it's going
everybody's talking
into
about
that.
an election year again. And
Right.
didn't we just do this in 2020? The same as we did in 2016, the same as we did in 2008, with the same BS about employment numbers.
Well,
And
this
I don't
Go on,
know about
John.
the employment numbers. I mean,
Oh, John.
no, yeah, I mean,
Tell us.
it all depends how I guess you want to count things, but there's still a lot of job openings. Yes, some sectors are getting, some cuts, but overall, I don't think, I mean, if I just walk down my main street, there's for hire, signs all over the place. Maybe then there's, I'm sure there's a lot of manufacturing jobs that are not getting filled. I don't know. I just think that there's when you raise interest rates, there's a lot of money that ends up flowing into the economy, and you go around to restaurants are full, at least in my neighborhood and in the city.
Yeah.
There's no it doesn't seem to be a huge recession. Now remember that we were supposed to have a recession last year, right? And we were supposed to
That's
have
right.
a recession in the first quarter this year. And so, economics forecasting is an impossible task. It's they're usually always wrong. If they had it always right, the Fed has 300 economists on staff, yet they've been hoping, I guess, for a recession, in the last 6 months, and they keep saying, well, it's still strong, and we're going to keep interest rates higher for longer. So, the paranoid economics, yeah, I mean, you got to put out something.
Yeah, but if you got 300 economists working for you, right, or 3,000, or however many people they have, you ask yourself, what's driving that? Like, how can you be this speculative with that many brains going, and that much? They've got. It's not like there's some guy holding them by the throat and saying, "Oh, you got to go one way or the other." They can go anywhere they want.
Yeah.
But why is it that they keep going deeper and deeper? What's driving their decision making, or at least their numbers? Is it really down to common sense, or even some sense, or is it just being driven by sentiment?
No, even the Fed.
Well, anybody
can
that's an
anybody.
economist.
Anybody
Just because they have
that's an
300 economists, that doesn't make them the smartest, the sharpest tool in the shed.
No, exactly. My point was that forecasting is difficult, even when you have a ton of people trying to do this thing.
So we should just use AI to forecast that. Because forecasting
AI is just
AI will do a better job.
AI will do
generative.
It's doing a better job.
You saw the video I sent from McNamara, who's I think put it really succinctly. AI is just crap. It's just a database.
John.
It spits out stuff. It spits out stuff that nobody's validated. It's not even. Right?
So wait, so John, wait, let me ask you this. So
Yeah,
AI is going to be so AI is.
Oh, we just lost.
Oh,
Oh, that was right at the AI.
Yeah.
So
And this
so AI is going to be AI is going to be a politician. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. No, I think
so. AI is going to run for president.
AI is
I'll run for
it doesn't matter. But the whole paranoid thing. Yeah, look, you need to get people excited, and so if you create some chaos, it gets people's attention. Maybe that's the
Money's to be made in chaos, right?
yeah.
And it
Yeah,
grabs
that's what
headlines and it sells papers, or if you will, the
Look,
old days
one of you
papers.
you sent that that article on rare earth minerals,
Mhm.
right? I don't know
Yeah.
if this was part of the paranoid thing, but I thought it was an interesting article because it just shows how China, anybody that's an authoritarian government has a strategy. We don't freaking have a strategy right now. Now
Right.
we depend on China for these rare minerals that are in everything that we want to do in the modern world, and
Oh,
now
Although
they
Australia's challenging that now.
Well, Australia's been challenging them for a while since they did their economic embargo on wine. So
but
Australia like smelled the roses a lot sooner than the rest of the world.
Mhm.
We as America, we're just smelling the roses 3 years after that.
Much delayed. Yeah.
Yeah.
it's just it's
well,
just
you've got more important things on your mind in America, haven't you? Like
Oh,
the
no.
upcoming cage fight between Mark
Elon Musk and
Zuckerberg.
Zuckerberg. Yeah.
Cage
Oh,
fight,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's what industry leaders do. You know what I mean?
yeah.
This is
we
where
should
we're
have. We
at.
should have. I think we should all be encouraging Joe Biden and Trump to cage fight each other.
So
That would
let's
be.
get it on.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that should be the way. I mean, don't have an election. Just put them in a cage.
Do you
Yeah.
remember
Yeah,
that
when it
movie
comes out-
Idiocracy? Yeah.
He has whoever wins has power. Great way to run politics.
Yeah.
Well, it's got to be better than all the Mickey Mouse stuff that's happening now. I mean, I heard this morning. Oh yeah, we're going to we will solve inflation by let's artificially stimulate a recession because that will take away the pain of inflation. Now, can
Yeah.
anybody
Oh, wow.
explain to me
Where was that anagram? Where was that,
This-
David?
Do you remember we
was
talked
from
about
this was
not
from
too
the
long ago?
the chairman of the Bank of England.
Yeah, but
He says,
it's not going to happen, right?
I mean,
When you
pain
raise
is pain,
interest
isn't it?
rates, you send a whole bunch of money into the system. Okay, it takes a little while, but eventually it percolates, and so you can't solve inflation by keeping increasing interest rates all the time. It just
But why
it
do
doesn't
all
work.
the governments keep doing it then, John?
Yeah,
the
yeah,
US,
but-
the Brits.
Yeah.
Well, look at it.
Central
We've
Bank,
raised
European Central Bank.
5.5% from 0 to 5.5. We've raised interest rates here, and we're supposed to get a recession. This is the fastest time we've done it, and there's no recession in sight. You talk to anybody, they're like, "What? What recession? What are you talking about?"
Mm.
But isn't this really the tail wagging the dog now? Like, it just sounds to me like, who's running this show now? It's crazy.
Well,
Is it the people? Is it the media? Is it the economists? Is it the central banks? Who's running it?
I don't think anybody knows who's running it. I think I think it's really they're throwing a dart against the wall. And you keep talking about the upcoming election. This upcoming election is basically one we've never had, unless you go back to like the 1700s. You've got someone who tried to do treason or has done treason, right, with everything supposedly. Tried to to overturn the government with a sitting president that he doesn't even acknowledge. So this, if you want to talk about paranoid economics, if one of them gets in, we're doomed, and if the other one stays, we're doomed. It's kind of like enough with the 85-year-olds running the country. Like, can we get somebody like a little younger and like
the FBI, the CIA will assassinate Trump before he gets into office.
Oh boy, yeah. There's
wow, that's good.
And you heard it here.
Okay. Here we go.
All right. So there's good and bad news here. I'm not sure how YouTube is going to take to this, but you could be right, John. I don't know. I mean, you could do it JFK is what you're saying.
I mean, look, the CIA, is really well versed in this. They threw how many governments have they thrown? Let's see, Chile.
All of them.
It's in the interest of American primacy.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
The thing is, these days, if you anything that's against what the current power is, they shut you down with no. We're gonna. This is for national security. We can't do anything.
Oh, yeah.
We can't release anything. We can't tell you anything. we're going to invade some country and put a puppet. It's for national security. You know, it's the new all blanket. We don't have a real reason, so this is how it works.
It's like a kid in a candy store. We've got some power and we want to kind of use it.
You know, the thing is, once you give power to somebody, it's very difficult for them to give it up, right? And bureaucracies.
Don't you have to exercise power in order to keep power? I mean, there's no such thing as keeping power without constantly exercising it.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, you gotta use the stick. Yeah.
Which is what they're doing in the Middle East now. Now would be a good time for a commercial, David, and we can go and segue.
And then we can go to the Middle East.
Yeah, well, but I was just fascinated by outraged chicken. I mean, sorry.
Oh, look, I'm gonna mess you up.
I can't. I'm sorry, I can't hear very well. So
yeah.
Get the freedom and the flexibility of remote work in the lucrative tech industry. Bend your life around the world. Bandicoot is the premier course and community for thriving in a remote tech career. Join the revolution today. Bandicoot.com, official partner of the Lost Dollar Business Club. All right.
We're back. So let me just say this before we start going on to the Middle East countries and their power. So if you look at, and this will be the segue into the PGA and LIV. So Saudi Arabia in the next 3 to 5 years is going to make something like $3 trillion because of gas sales, oil, if you will, because, Russia can't do this one can't do that, Venezuela, blah, blah, right? So they're going to make $3 trillion that they have no place to put their money. So the Saudis as well as UAE are buying an influence in sports because sports is the next greatest thing, right, to diversify into. So for everybody that knows, most of the people listening, they just bought, if you will, the PGA. And I think this is fascinating that the Middle Eastern countries now are coming back, just like China is, to their might of, if you will, from 0 to 1,000 CE. They're all realizing we have power again, right? And now they're coming and they're doing it. I don't personally think there's anything wrong with it. I know the Luz football team in the UK became a public team, so nobody can own more than X percent because they didn't want anybody from the Middle East to come buy them. So I'm fascinated, like with Manchester and Man EU and all these teams that are being bought by this. I'm fascinated. I'm waiting for the Saudis or the UAE to come over here and buy an NFL team. I'm not, you're laughing, but they're either going to come buy an NFL, NBA, something, because they have more money than these billionaires. Their PIV, right? Their fund, their PIF fund has more money than all of them. They have trillions. They can buy anything and do anything. They can make everything better. I know they're trying. They bought their way into Formula One. They just bought their way into golf. The question is, are they buying it because they really like it? Or are they buying it because it's power and influence because it's that community?
Well, I think it speaks into the mistrust and fear also of the countries that they're buying into. Because really, during COVID, this started with the UFC. Well, it didn't start with them, but the UFC was a big mover. And if you think about it, who does the UFC appeal to? Is it the upper class? No, it's really your working class, right? Golf, more upper class. Some of the other soccer, football. That's your mid class mostly, right? It has influence on the people sitting on the board. They're usually very rich, but generally speaking, if you're looking at an entire swathe of people, it's really about working class people and about getting influence with them.
Yeah, but I disagree with that to an extent. And back in the day, it was all blue collar for the most part that went to football games, in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Sports now have become a white collar because blue collar people can't afford to go to the games.
Well, there aren't as many blue collar people anyway.
Right. So my point though is they're buying influence. So like when you buy your box and you have your clients come to your box and you do this, right? This is a way you can wine and dine them. So I think it's fascinating. So my question is, so what's the end game? Like, there's 30 some odd owners in the NFL. If somebody goes to say to Jerry Rice and say, or Jerry Jones, and says, I want to buy the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm going to give you $25 billion. That's hard to say no to. Like, you know, even though your team's worth 8, I give you 25. Okay. You know, if someone goes to win it, like the New York Knicks, who I love, and you guys really need to start playing better ball. But anyway, if you go to the New York Knicks and say the same thing, like you're worth $2 billion, but we'll give you 5. Okay, so now you're elevating every price of the NBA team. Same with NFL. If I'm the New York Mets, and they really need to do better, but if I'm the Mets and someone comes and offers me stupid money, you know, and the hedge fund guy that runs it, he's not an idiot. He's going to weigh that out. Sure. So that's going to be the things. Like, at what point is there no? Or now is it going to be that you can't be a billionaire anymore to own
Unless
a
you
sports
own
franchise, unless you own it now. But in the next few years, you need to be a trillionaire to own it, because they're going to put the value of these things so stupid.
A lot of the soccer teams in the UK are owned by Americans. They've been investing in that for the last.
Yeah, but Glazer family's selling
years.
Manchester because they haven't done squat, and everybody wants them out. But what they don't want is they don't want anybody from the Middle East, which is interesting, because those are the guys that can come in, spend £1 billion, if you will, to get you a new stadium and get you what you need.
Well, their
so it's
pressure
very
is,
interesting.
of course, their pressure is because Manchester City did exactly that. So they have a lot of social pressure to do that. But the Glazers just want money. I don't think they really care who they sell it to, as long as they get considerably more money than they paid. But apart from Manchester United, there are a lot of teams in all leagues in the UK which have been bought up over the last 5 to 10 years by Americans, or Americans and American money backing
Russian money.
Well, yeah, but the Russians all got kicked out after the war.
Yeah.
When the war started.
But if you think about it from an investment point of view.
Sorry, Kurt. There was just one thing that, Stephen, you're normally so clever, but you said something very, very stupid about 10 minutes ago. And you said, at what price do you sell? Well, everything's got a price.
Right. So that's not a stupid statement. That's more of a, what price do you stay? If I own a team, let's say I bought the Mets, and I paid $800 million or $1 billion for the Mets, and they come to me and they go, I'll give you $2 billion. I'm like, no, I'm good. But if they come and say $5 billion, that's the question. At what price do you sell? And it's not a stupid question, because I'm already a billionaire. You giving me another billion, really big deal, right? It's unless you got to give me stupid billions, unless you're like the worst performing baseball. And when I say football, I mean football. NFL is another football. But unless you're that, or unless you're going to be like American soccer, then unless you're going to give me something that's going to move the needle in my bank account, then why would I sell you? So it really is going to become the price. It's the same with the PGA. When they bought the PGA, it's like for 3 years they battled, right? All these guys left. They got hundreds of millions of dollars, and you got guys like Tiger Woods and Nicholson that didn't go, Nicholson went, but the other McIlroy. So they didn't go. So now these guys get to come back. All is forgiven. They get a big hug, right? But now they've got all this extra money. Not saying that Tiger's poor,
but wait. Did they buy the PGA? We don't know the deal.
Yeah, we do. They bought it. It's been in the Financial Times, The Economist. It's been on every sports. It's been everywhere, John. The whole deal has been laid out in the Financial Times like a week ago.
Really? I didn't see it.
It's called a newspaper, John. See, what happens is there's a printing press, and it was invented many years ago by the Chinese. And then some guy in Germany said he invented it, but not really. And then what happens is they put these little things in there. Now they use a computer, and it prints. And then what happens? It gets dispersed globally. And now there's this technology called the internet. You may not have heard of it. And you can read it online, and you don't have to buy a paper and get your fingers dirty. I'm just saying. So.
You're just saying. Look, I don't care. If they come up with stupid money, it doesn't really matter. If you're already a billionaire, you want the prestige of what owning a club means.
That's right.
Really?
Having 2 million. Look, I don't care if I got if I'm 70 years old and some guy from the Middle East says, okay, it's worth 2, but I'll give you 10. Maybe if all he's interested is in a paper in a statement in some investment. But when you got a stadium, I mean, you have the additional ego boosting of, you go to a club and people admire, you're wonderful what you're doing. it's a whole other psychological piece that this is why these people buy these things. That they're not interested in the money. I mean, why do they buy? Why does I forget Mark Cuban? Why did he buy the basketball thing?
Because he loves basketball. He
Right,
wanted the
yeah.
basketball team,
So-
and he bought it for a song. He bought it like for 500 or 600 million. He bought nothing, and now it's worth like 2 or 3 billion. But no, they're businessmen, John. And I think my opinion is, and we actually know a couple owners. You should probably ask them what their thoughts are. But on the NFL side, their teams are they're definitely overinflated, right? These contracts.
Yeah.
On football, UK football, not soccer in the US. But if I own like the Austin Football Club here, and a guy from the Middle East comes and says, your football club's worth 75 million, but we really want to be in Major League Soccer in the United States. I'm going to give you $500 million. Now, Matthew McConaughey's an owner, and a couple guys here. Let's assume that there's 3 owners or 4 owners, and you net 125 million, and your net worth, let's say, is 50 to 100, and I'm doubling it.
Different now.
No. If I'm a billionaire, John, unless you're the top 10 guys that have like, $100 billion, right? But if you have somewhere between 1 and 10, and I'm going to say to you, I'm going to double your net worth, and you'll have this extra cash. You can do whatever you want with it. Buy another team. Go buy this. Go build a spaceship. Go build a submarine that'll implode. Whatever you want to do, right?
Yeah,
you can do it. So it's not a stupid question. At what price do you sell? To John's point, some things have a price. There's going to be some people that, like the families that own these teams for the last 50 years, are not going to sell. Like the Pittsburgh Steelers, never selling, right? That's been in their family forever. It's not going anywhere, let's say. But some of these guys, like a Jerry Jones, 70, 80 years old, it's kind of like, okay, my kids are running it. That's cool. But then if you're his kids and there's, when he dies, you're going to get to 30 billion and go, but Dad, they're going to give us another 30 billion. We'll have 60 billion in cash. What do you want it? You have to start looking at that. So it's at what price? Even Formula One, they bought into a race team. So at some point, they may just try to buy Formula One. Your UFC. People, I don't care how rich you are, they want to be richer. It's not the prestige isn't owning a team. The prestige is the commas in your bank account. I'm sorry to tell you that. Nobody cares if you own a football team or a basketball team or this kind of team. It's how much money you have. And these people are all chasing the Forbes list, which is crazy, but they want to know that they're richer than the next guy. And I think that's where this is heading. So that's what I'm saying. At what price? Like will the NFL?
And really, that's what happened at the PGA.
I think the PGA was dying. I think the PGA was dying, and these guys.
Yeah. How was it dying?
PGA was like when this LIV thing came on, it was more exciting. People watched it, had bigger purses. The PGA, if you look at their stats, their numbers have been falling for years. When this LIV thing started, all of a sudden the numbers went back up. So maybe this was all orchestrated. But now that they've bought in, people are excited to see what's going to happen because you have the guys who left and the guys who didn't, and now they're going to compete, and the purses are bigger. So now all of a sudden PGA got exciting again. So it's this dance. And I'm not sure how this is playing out. Like, I don't know what you're going to do to make the NFL better or worse. Less commercials, I guess, would be great. But, Formula One, when you watch Formula One, it's 3 hours long. There's no commercial interruption. It's great. It's like a full. So I think they're buying prestige around the world. The part that people have a problem with Saudi is, even though MBS is trying to be more moderate and whatever, is that, they have that little thing with Khashoggi that people probably forgot about, where they chopped them up and killed them. So everybody says, do you really want to take blood money? Well, the UAE hasn't killed anybody as far as I know. So would you take their money? And that's what I'm saying. These people have trillions of dollars and they've been sitting on it. And now they're going to spread their wings.
I think Steve, there's something you mentioned before that I think is really important. That when you're talking about clubs that have a huge amount of prestige, they've got really old money, right, in them. People notice when that switches hands, right? But there was a time when no one gave a rat's ass who the owners of the of clubs were, unless they were prestige clubs. Like here in Canada, in hockey, people would notice if an Arab bought a hockey team because we've only got like a handful of them, and they're all prestige clubs, right? But if we had 24 of them and most of them were in the bottom end of relegation, shall we say, and no one would care, right? You come in, you buy it out. It's like, thank you very much for putting money into the system. Right. I think you see a little of that playing out, and especially with something like PGA, that's an American dynasty, right?
Yep.
It's noticeable when you buy something like that, and noticeable on many levels. But look how normalized it's becoming. Like that's also to me quite interesting. It's becoming very normal, and I think that's part of it. There was when Russians started buying into British soccer. It was just like, whoa, what's going on here? Because there's so much prestige that's attached to it.
Right.
People were noticing it, but the UFC, people just kind of accepted it, and I just thought that's interesting. Because normally there'd be a big blowout when, what is this? They're buying up our game, they're buying up our sport. No, it's just like, yeah, have it, kind of thing. Like, yay, we just want to go watch.
Do they consider these? Do they consider these teams an investment in some way? Because they will become more valuable over time. They are valuable assets in terms of bringing audiences in to watch these games.
Yeah, because if you look at what a basketball or a football team or a baseball team cost back in the 60s or even the 70s or 80s, and now the minimum team is like, let's just say 900 million to $1 billion. And that's for a crap team, right? So they've gone from I think when Jerry Jones bought the Dallas Cowboys, I want to say 30 years ago, I'm sure I'm wrong. Put your comments below. It was like a couple hundred $100 million. It wasn't a lot, right? So I think it's not prestige. It's like they see the value. Mark Cuban bought the whatever his team was, the Mavericks, for, I want to say, let's say 750, right? It's worth like $2 billion. So it makes money. And if you can throw money into it, I have $1 trillion and I can buy into the PGA now. I can make the PGA exciting because I can offer bigger purses and make it global, because the PGA is really an North American type thing, right? There's other tours elsewhere, but LIV was a tour globally. So I think that they're going to start trying to make everything like, look how good we are. So, you know what I mean? I don't think throwing money in it is a bad thing. I think it's going to be.
So who cares?
And I think people are desensitized, except like the real UK football fans, right? How dare, like when we talk to the people, right? Well, they do. At the Lewis Football Club, when we spoke to them, they purposely became a public or a common share football club because they wanted no Middle Eastern money.
And they're probably in the nowhere league in the UK, but the Premiership and the Championship sides, they don't care. The supporters don't care.
No,
we don't care where the money comes from, as long as you get promotion.
You don't want to get relegated. You want the best players and you want best stadium. Now, Messi was offered $1 billion to play in Saudi, and he said, "No, I'll stay in Miami." So so at what price, David? Apparently, $1 billion wasn't enough for him to go.
Yeah, look,
well, he doesn't. He just likes the prestige of being in Miami and having a hot dog as and when he needs it. I think.
Yeah. Yes.
Remember when Marcus Evans, the owner of Marcus Evans,
please don't mention that.
Yeah, he knew I was coming with this one.
Yeah, I knew he was coming with it. Yeah, I cried.
He bought Ipswich, and that went by the by, except for people from Ipswich. And no one even knew his name. No one ever saw his face. No one even knew he bought the club for a while. That just went by the by, right?
Yeah,
and now.
It.
Yeah, So
now we have an American owner.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
isn't that interesting?
We just got promotion as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
He just ripped the heart out of the club. Sold everything, the training grounds and anything of any value. He just sold.
Yeah, piecemeal it out.
I think it's gonna be
it's like wait until your grandmother's asleep, then steal their teeth and melt out all the gold.
But I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens now over the next, say, between now and the end of this decade, with not just like the Russians when the Russian guy bought the Brooklyn Nets. That was very nice, right? Then there was issues, whatever. So I don't really care who buys it. If you can make it better, like the XFL, the Rocks Football League, right? They're having some financial problems. Well, if I want to get into football and the NFL's not going to let me in, guess where I'm going to go with my $1 trillion? Then I make the XFL more exciting than the NFL, and then it's a paradigm.
What's wrong with competition in the sports ranks? I mean,
I think it's great, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I think Americans are funny, right? Because we're so fickle. Today it's okay, tomorrow it's not. We also forget things like when you look at Saudi money, technically blood money, right? What they did, never been punished, never this, but like the conference right after Khashoggi was dead, nobody showed up, and the next conference, everybody was back, all the banks, so we have a short-lived memory for what? Profit and loss. And that's it. So I'm just saying it'll be interesting to see what happens.
That's a good segue.
Lost and found now.
There
we go.
It's a good segue.
There we go. If you like the Lost Dollar Business Club, you should subscribe. If you like it that much, you should also tell a friend of yours. So you should subscribe and like. Also, you should put comments below so we know what you're thinking. Tell us what shows you want to hear. Just help us make it better.
So who's lost $1 this week? And who's found $1 this week?
Jesus.
And we're back.
All right.
Dun, 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 dun.
Oh boy.
We're at that time.
Oh, we already know what David's
No.
going to talk about. Some ridiculous farm animal.
No, you
crap.
don't.
By the
No,
way,
you
just to
don't.
let you know, that fake meat crap, sales are down like 90% because nobody
That's
wants
because
that.
of our show, Stephen.
I know, because we tell them, listen, enough, eat real.
It's just been approved in the US for artificial chicken, but that's another,
Oh,
that's
boy.
Yeah, that's
story.
another thing.
It's
All right,
not
so
today's story.
Eat real local meat. That's my.
There you go. That's what I say to every college girl I meet. Now, what's
God.
what's the story? Who's doing
It's
our
a
first
family
lost and
show, you
found?
dirty old boy.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, come on, John, you be outraged. Tell us.
Outraged, John. What's your
lost
lost and found this week?
No, I was gonna say, well, the dollar lost is for the UK. They just raised interest rates, so yeah, they're in the everybody's in the poorhouse there. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
That's
after looking into the effects of Brexit, and which apparently that's what everybody's pointing it to. Yeah, I was reading those articles on how the UK is in big trouble and nobody seems to care.
Yeah, look, just to add to that is that look, it's gonna take a while. The transition was never gonna be easy. It's never. Yeah.
Okay, so John's gone UK/Brexit.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm going through that Brexit. Yeah.
Michael, what's your lost and found?
Well, I've got a big found for Ford. Big found for Ford.
Fix or repair daily.
Maybe it's
Found
also
under
a
a day.
win-win for the U.S. taxpayer.
Okay.
Which is the U.S. government under Joe Biden is giving a $9 billion loan to Ford.
Reagan did that with Chrysler. Go figure.
Well, there you go. This is the biggest. It is said that this is the biggest loan since 2009, and this is to construct 3 battery factories, which are already underway. And it's a big win for Ford because they want to produce 2 million electric cars by 2026. Which is just a ridiculously huge number compared to what they've made in the past short period of time. But it could be a win for the American taxpayer who's funding this with a low interest loan, but it could bring the jobs back. It's going to enhance local domestic production again. So could be a win-win, certainly a win for Ford.
Yeah. All right.
I think it's a loss. Anyway, Kurt, what do you have?
I never thought I'd hear myself saying it, but I give Walt Disney the nod this week because they're up, their money's up, and considering they give the big old finger to DeSantis, they get a double win on that one for me. And
that's if you don't count. That's if you don't count their Elemental opening.
And then for the loss side, I would have to say Britain falling 6 places down the global economic competitiveness ranking.
Oh, we're just slightly below Macedonia or whatever it is.
Yeah, pretty much.
Moldavia, sorry.
Moldavia, yes.
Moldova.
They're right above Timbuktu though, so you got that going for you.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. These are, I think, the Zuckerberg. This is to me just stupid. The Zuckerberg Elon Musk cage fight is a big loss because if you're that stupid as a billionaire and you got nothing to do with your time, you should just jump off a cliff and go. So to me, that's a loss. The titanium sub that everybody knew there was a flaw from the CBS crew that went in it to one of the adventure guys. Everyone's telling them it's unsafe on the floor.
And their safety
even
officer.
James, right, and either everybody. So there's a loss there that they did not listen to their own people, and it's a tragic loss for the 5 people that the thing literally imploded, and I guess the cable broke. And the last, which is a found, I'm very excited that the PGA through this acquisition is going to get some life brought into it, and hopefully the tournaments will be more exciting and whatnot. So there you go.
That'll be fun. We're gonna hold them to it. I'm expecting to see some better games.
Me too.
Yeah.
David, and maybe some beer girls that drive in the golf carts and give them.
Oh,
like,
God.
That's the way
just
forward.
I'm just trying to help. I'm just trying to help out.
Yeah, we don't
All
need
right,
more,
What?
more, sort of circus, sports, with money and
They're all.
stuff.
I don't want to be rude, John.
Don't
But
ruin
they're all
it.
circus sports. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's not get carried away, pal.
Isn't
They're
it
all
bread and
circuses.
circuses? Bread and circuses.
There you
Golf
go.
was
All right,
at least
David.
somewhat civilized, but
Right.
okay.
All right,
Can't
David's
wait
going
for
to
the
talk
next
about some
Olympics.
meat or some goat
Oh,
or
no,
something.
I'm talking. This is a real business show, so you have to be sensible. I'm actually
Since when?
celebrating this week, along with
Yeah.
a Dutch entrepreneur called Laura Hoogland.
Okay.
She owns a company called the Banana Factory,
Okay.
and they're scaling up now because they've just saved. There we go. People
Yes.
save all sorts of things, but this particular lady in her company has been saving bananas. She saved some bananas, and she's got the world's first banana saving factory. And what she's done is she's cut a deal with all the importers on the Dutch ports, and all these bananas that come in and they literally get rejected and just thrown away, wasted. She's going to be picking. She's processing all of that, making it into banana puree, and the puree has been used for lots of different health foods, including the wonderful banana bread. So yeah, she's scaling up. She's going directly now to retailers as well as the ports, and she thinks that that'll add at least 800,000 kilos of wasted bananas that she can get from the supermarkets on a yearly basis. So, that for me most definitely is a found banana dollar.
Yeah.
Especially for the bananas.
Very good.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
That's
this is a
brilliant.
serious.
This is great.
This is a serious program. Serious program.
Damn right, it's serious.
Wow.
It's bananas.
I don't know why Bloomberg or the FT hasn't asked us to just be permanent hosts on one of their shows.
Yeah.
I don't understand it.
Because I've got, I've got all the good stuff.
You've got more.
No, that's me finished. And I think we're kind of up against time again this week, guys. So,
but before you push the button, don't forget to subscribe and like. Please leave your comments below. We'd love to hear from you. We do get comments every now and then, so it's very nice that people comment.
Mostly about bananas.
About bananas. And if you want to be a guest on the show and you're an expert in a certain field that you just want to show us how stupid we are, please come on. We have no problem with that because, as David said, this is a serious show, as you can tell. So anyway, thank you, everybody. This is a great show. Don't forget, Saturday, 6 a.m. Eastern time, the show goes out, and you guys are more than welcome to comment and come on. And at some point, we may actually do a live show where you can ask us questions live. Ooh.
Oh, all right, intrigued.